Welcome to the Twisted Ones podcast, Jiu-Jitsu Magazine. We're here with Garry Tonon at the ADCC 2019 championships. I think if we're going to put Garry in a class, it was the fastest paced match ever. And that was almost like a crone match.
Yeah.
Like where it was just position, switching around like cats. Mm-hmm. You know, just fast paced. You came out right away. And what was your thoughts like when that first transition happened?
Yeah.
The first transition.
So first of all, I knew going into this that it was going to be exactly like that. Canuto's style is such that he also pushes the pace. He's also not afraid to risk things. He's not afraid to attack. So I knew going into this that he was going to take on that, embody that spirit. And I also, moving into this match, because I've had a loss against him previously, said to myself before this match, I was like, I'm going to control this match. I'm going to make sure that every offensive movement is initiated by me, and I think I did a great job of doing that. And I think that's why you saw what you saw in that match today. I was unwilling to give up a single inch to my opponent, which is very different than the strategy that you saw me take in my first match, which was much more of a counter game kind of style, which I do often in many of my other matches, and sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. And I think in this match, I played it exactly the way that I needed to play it.
Did you game plan this before? I mean, knowing who's in your division, knowing that was a possibility, or is this just kind of like a late Danaher meeting and where you guys all spoke about your meeting about what could possibly be in your bracket?
No, I didn't. I only had like a month to really prepare for ADCC, theoretically, because I didn't know I was going to be doing it until about a month out. So I can't say that I really game planned for any particular opponent, more so than just trying to embody the tactics and strategy of ADCC, because it's a very different rule set.
Right.
However, because I've competed against him before, I had certain ideas about, like I said, I went in with a completely different mentality than I did in my first match. So as far as did we as a group decide that was the right thing to do? Sort of. I mean, John always asks us prior to our matches because he wants to understand, from a coaching perspective, what our goals are. Hey, how do you want to play this match? Are you going to sit when you first start the match? Are you going to stand when you first start the match? He'll ask us some questions about it, but it's a collaborative thing. It's not like he's like, you should sit for this match. He'll give us advice if he thinks like somebody's a strong wrestler. Like for instance, my first match, he said, maybe you should sit. It's a strong wrestler, something like that. And then I had a conversation. I was like, I'll play a little bit of both. Yes, you guys got my stuff. Perfect. This way I don't have to go back.
Wait, we got to get this hat in here.
Yeah,
you got to check that out. That's for America.
Let's do it. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's all I got to say is basically I just went out there and competed the way that I thought would be best against that opponent. But would I say a month away from the event I was thinking about that? Absolutely not. I thought about that 30 seconds before I went out there.
Very confident. You look very confident. Even after that exchange, a couple of different exchanges, you were pushing the pace the entire time.
Yeah.
That was you the entire time, right in his face. You were giving him opportunities too, which was,
sure.
You're kind of showing him a little bit of the, because he's a good judoka.
Yeah.
You were showing him a lot of stuff. Your feet were straight at moments. I'm like, what's going to happen here? And he just kind of wilted. It was really fabulous to see. I mean, and now we know where you're going, right? We know who you're facing next.
Yes, sir.
And it's also somebody that you had previously lost to.
Yeah.
So what's about that?
So 2 0-0 decision losses to JT. So I have been on the receiving end of that L when it comes to the decision to the judges, and it's a super bitter thing. I'm sure Canuto feels it right now. Not to add insult to injury, but that sucks. You really don't feel like you lost. Of course, every 0-0 decision match is not equal. Because of the scoring of ADCC, it's really hard to score. So you could have a 0-0 decision match that is not equal at all, where one guy is clearly dominant. But nonetheless, I believe that my 2 matches with JT, that was not the case. I believe that both were very, very close matches that really could have gone either way. And it's unfortunate for me, obviously, that I got the L in both of those situations. So what it's my job to do now is to try to go out there the same way that I just went against Canuto today and just make absolute certain that does not happen again. Make sure that I'm the one that either scores points or submits this guy. I can't leave anything to chance. I can't leave it to the judges. There can be no question in anybody's mind that I beat that guy. I just can't allow anything less.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
So Garry, you had a long break from jiu-jitsu
Yes.
matches. You're going deep into this ADCC event, which is a big event. Do your nerves feel any different than because you're returning now?
Sure.
And you're changing gears again from MMA back to your roots, so to speak. I mean, jiu-jitsu, I should say. How do you feel as far as like your emotions about this? Any difference?
There are definitely still nerves. There's definitely still anxiety. I was wondering that same question myself. Obviously I wouldn't know until I actually went out there and did it. But there was anxiety in my first match and even my second match. But I do think that it's different. It puts things into perspective because when you do MMA, the consequences of not being prepared or the consequences of not making the right move are so much more dire than they are in jiu-jitsu. It's just the fact. Like, if you get hit in the head, like you're knocked unconscious, or you get put in a bad position, now you're viciously TKO'd until you're unconscious. I mean, the outcomes, we've seen terrible, terrible things happen in mixed martial arts. And sure, do I say it's like a high percentage thing that, you're going to walk out of there and your life is going to change? No, but it can happen. And the likelihood of that happening in jiu-jitsu, not so much. More than likely, I'm going to have the option to tap, right? And that's not always the case in mixed martial arts. It doesn't always quite work out like that. Sometimes, everything's over before you know it, and you just got kicked in the head, knocked unconscious, right? So I have like full-blown panic attacks before MMA fights sometimes, compared to jiu-jitsu, which I've experienced anxiety, but never on that level before.
Your panic attacks, your full-blown anxiety, is it because I had fought, and my biggest fear was showing up and not giving my best and maybe being embarrassed, because it is probably one of the best, like the most savage things you can do.
Sure.
It's like it's our true self out there, and then if I see myself I don't want to get embarrassed, I don't want to get locked out. I don't care about getting. I don't want to be knocked out. I'm not care about pain.
It's not about that at all.
Yeah, it's about showing up and being you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's multifaceted. It's a real problem. Like, when you're thinking about all the things that could go wrong in that scenario, you have what I was talking about before, which is, like life-changing events. Concussions can be life-changing. Then you talk about, what you were talking about before, which is a second layer, which, if you consider that to be the number one thing, the number two thing being like, your sense of pride, like, something like that happens out there. Let's say I got, hit a couple times, I'm wobbled, and then I'm submitted by somebody. That really, it's embarrassing, like, for my legacy. I mean, I've seen that happen to other really great jiu-jitsu guys. Get wobbled and then get submitted, and everybody's like, oh man, he's not that good. You know what I mean? And there's a lot going on there, and we all want to believe that we don't give a shit. Like, we all want to like look at the camera and say like, oh yeah, I don't care what anybody thinks. But the truth is, you care a little bit. Like, you always care a little bit. You can block out all the negative bullshit that everybody says, but when you go out there and you have a poor performance and the proof is in the pudding and you actually see yourself get knocked out, I mean, it's inarguable. It's hard to argue with that. You're memed on, every goddamn social media site with drool coming out of your mouth, or, your face split open, or whatever the case may be.
By people who've never even stepped in or
like,
stepped foot on a mat
like you
or
guys.
anything.
No, I'm kidding.
Gary, before we let you go, let's recap the bracket real quick.
Sir.
Okay, so first match you submitted Mateus Gamrot,
Yes,
and
sir.
then the second match, this is the match everybody's talking about, you and Canuto,
Yes,
and then
sir.
we know you're facing JT Torres in the match tomorrow.
Yes.
On the other side of the bracket, there's Wagner Hocha and Dante Leon.
Yeah.
What do you think about that matchup?
So I've never competed against Dante Leon before, so it's hard for me to say. I haven't paid too much attention to what he's doing. I've watched one match of his with Gabriel Arjas, and I didn't see too much. I didn't really get to see what his whole game is. He took out Lepre, though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so he's clearly good, because Lepre's
course.
amazing. I've lost to Lepre before. So, man, they're both somebody to look out for. I've competed against Wagner Hocha on a number of occasions. I believe I've had his number for a long time now. So I don't see that match going any other way than me winning. Of course, last ADCC, I definitely lost to him. But we had a very close match. I've submitted him before. I feel very confident in my abilities to take it to Wagner Hocha, no problem. Dante Leon will be a huge question mark. I really just can't say much about that match because I've never competed against him. I don't know enough. I'll probably do some research tonight. We'll see.
That's awesome. That's
how
exciting.
about the performances of your teammates today?
Sure, I was very happy with everybody. It was a little disappointing watching Nicky lose, and I didn't get to see Taz's match, so I didn't get to see that. Of course, I always want what's best for my teammates, so I would have liked for him to win as well. I was actually like shitting my pants a little bit. We're all talking about me and Canuto, but when I looked at that matchup, I'm like, oh man, Taz's might beat this guy, and I know Taza in the training room, and he's a savage. Like, I was genuinely worried about having to compete against him. A lot of people don't give him enough credit, obviously, because he hasn't accomplished as much as I have in the sport or some of these other guys. But I mean, I know he's a killer because I'm in there with him every day, and I was like, damn, like this is gonna be a rough second match if I have to compete against Taza, you know. Aside from that, Nicky tried to play the best game that he possibly could, you know, and it's just the tactics and strategy of ADCC, man. And I've been on the losing end of ADCC for a number of times, and I know what it feels like. It only comes once every 2 years, and it's really disappointing. I'm sure that, you know, he's not happy as much as I'm not happy, if not much more so. So, you know, I know the kid's got a bright future. There's many more ADCCs for him to look at. And as far as the rest of my team's concerned, obviously highly impressed with Gordon Ryan's ability to go out there and crush everybody. Always highly impressed with, you know, Nicky Rod is man, we should talk about that for a second. I mean, he literally just came out of nowhere a couple years ago, or maybe even a year ago. I don't know. I don't even know how long it was at this point.
Still a blue belt.
I want to say it was 5 years, but it's not even close. Like we're talking somewhere between 1 and 2 years that this guy all of a sudden came onto the grappling scene, and he's now competing against the absolute best in the world and doing really, really well. I mean, he beat Orlando Sanchez very decisively, and I mean, not many people have been able to make Orlando Sanchez look like that.
Right.
And there's something to be said for that. So, I mean, he's really somebody these guys are going to have to take super seriously now in this division.
Very, very systematic, very technical.
I think we're gonna have another interview with you as champion. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping too.
But I would love to ask the questions because I know you got to get home, you got to take a shower, you got to do all this stuff, so we don't want to keep it too long. But how these guys are, how you address jiu-jitsu, how you address training, and how you address somebody like Nicky Rod or these guys these young kids that are coming up and getting good so fast. Yeah. And what's the fast track there? How do we do this? How do we implement this around the world? Because your team can't be everywhere, right?
Yeah, so it was for Nicky Rod. It was multifaceted. I think that it was very fortunate of him to end up. So he trains at South Jersey BJJ originally, predominantly. He was training there, and then you know, those guys are connected to us through the Ricardo Almeida Association. Ricardo Almeida taught Stephen Bongiorno, who was the teacher there, and obviously Henzo, you know, was the teacher of Ricardo, and then John, one of Henzo's students. So it was very lucky for him to be a part of this organization in that sense. But aside from that, you know, aside from the things that we've given to Nicky Rod in terms of his abilities on the mats to be able to submit people and kind of bringing him into our system of doing things, and I do think that led to a high degree of growth. He also had this wrestling background that you know, he had to work years for outside of anything that we did, that I think gave him a big portion of the fast track to success that he's experienced so far. So I think it's a little bit of a mix. I think he came into a great team, you know, probably one of the best teams he could possibly run into, to be able to help him along in his jiu-jitsu journey, as well as came from another sport related to ours, where he was putting in tons of hours and effort, and it ended up transferring over quite well. I actually got some of my motivation to do my second match the way that I did from watching Nicky Rod and just his relentless pace against Orlando Sanchez, and just even when he was winning, he just never stopped.
Oh, so you're talking about same day inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I looked at that match and I'm like, man, I'm going to go out there and do the same thing. I was like, there's just no reason these guys should, because in his mind, nobody can fucking touch him. Yeah. You know? And I was like, you know, that's how I should be thinking.
You know what? Now that you mentioned it, I saw similarities. Now that you mentioned that, it's very, you can pinpoint it. 2 more quick questions before we let you go.
Let's do it.
1, where's the best pizza in your area?
Best pizza in my area. It's hard to say, man. I'm not like I
love
pizza.
On your move.
I do love pizza. I'm not like huge on it. I really can't say, man. I'm not like, I don't want to like point fingers at any particular places because I don't have like a spot that I really go to that I like.
Fair enough.
I'm like super committed to burgers. I have like.
Oh, there we go.
I'm a burger boy.
Was that you wearing the Five Guys shirt yesterday?
Yeah, of course.
Five Guys. Yeah. What do you think about In-N-Out? Just quick.
In-N-Out's okay. I just think it's overrated.
Watch your mouth.
I know. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it.
Fair enough.
It's a good burger. It's just I have a lot of other burgers that I like better.
All right, fair enough.
All.
Okay, second question. Who are you wearing today?
Who am I wearing?
Yeah,
I'm wearing the United States of America.
That's what
today,
I'm talking about. So let's talk about where does one get such a glorious headpiece right there?
Oh, this hat? I actually won this mechanical bull riding.
Mechanical bull?
Yeah.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, it was fun.
Solid back in the South?
What's that?
Are you in the South?
No, I was in Vegas.
This is a Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
This is a Myrtle Beach hat.
No. I'm lying. This is actually in California. I'm pretty sure. There's like a chain here that does mechanical bull riding.
Oh,
Isn't there?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I got it in LA. I'm wrong. I did do mechanical bull riding in Vegas with Gordon, but we didn't win anything when we did that. It was here. So.
No, if this is one of those
It
high
was in
school
LA.
yearbook things, best dressed, you own it, man.
Thank you, bro.
You own it with
Appreciate
the.
it.
I mean, no one could see it, but he had the robe and everything.
Yeah.
Very Apollo Creed in spirit. Garry Tonon, best of luck to you. Thank you for
Thanks
taking
so much,
time.
guys. I appreciate it.
All right.
Looking
thank
forward
you.
to talking
Yeah.
to you guys as Victor tomorrow.
All right.
Next champion.